Before we start this video, if you love classic American cars, make sure to subscribe to the channel to support us. The channel is new, and we really need subscribers to keep it active. Thank you, and let's get into the video. The year was 1957, and America was living a unique moment in history. The post-war boom had transformed the country into an industrial giant, and the automobile industry had become one of its most expressive symbols. Every year, bigger, flashier, and more technologically advanced cars rolled out of Detroit's factories, each one trying to outshine the last. Cadillac and Lincoln dominated the luxury market with their flamboyant styling, massive chrome grilles, and interiors that looked more like living rooms than automobiles. They were confident, protected by names that carried prestige, wealth, and status. But that year, something unexpected happened. Chrysler unveiled the 1957 Imperial, a car so advanced, so bold, and so elegant that it sent shockwaves through the American luxury segment. While Cadillac and Lincoln relied heavily on tradition, the new Imperial arrived like a futuristic spaceship that had landed on American roads, instantly humbling its competitors and redefining what a luxury car could be. The Chrysler Imperial of 1957 was more than a car. It was a statement, powerful, audacious, and almost intimidating. It wasn't born under the Chrysler name anymore. For 1957, Imperial became its own brand within the corporation, positioned to stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest luxury marques in the world. This separation alone was a sign that Chrysler was no longer content to place second or third in the luxury market. They wanted to dominate. They wanted to build the most luxurious American car ever made. And for a brief moment in time, they succeeded in a spectacular fashion. People who test drove the 1957 Imperial often left the dealership stunned, surprised that an American car could feel so refined, so smooth, so effortlessly powerful. Journalists praised its engineering, its style, and its comfort in ways rarely seen before. Even Europeans, known for snubbing American cars, were caught off guard by how impressive the Imperial was. One of the things that made the 1957 Imperial so revolutionary was the way it looked. Designed under the leadership of the legendary Virgil Exner, the car was the pinnacle of the forward-look design philosophy that dominated Chrysler's lineup in the mid to late 1950s. The Imperial was low, long, and wide, much wider than its competitors. It had daring tail fins that stood like sculpted aerodynamic wings, not exaggerated or cartoonish, but perfectly proportioned, giving the car a sense of motion even while it sat still. Cadillac had fins too, of course, but the Imperials were refined, sharp, and elegant rather than flamboyant. And while Lincoln had gone in a brute-like, squared-off direction, the Imperial looked like a refined jet-age limousine created for a glamorous future that Americans believed was just around the corner. Perhaps the most unique styling element was its freestanding headlights, two elegant pods perched like jewel-studded ornaments at the edges of the front fenders. No other American car in 1957 had anything like them. Inspired by classic European luxury cars, they gave the Imperial a bold, aristocratic presence that made Cadillac and Lincoln seem almost conservative by comparison. These headlights didn't just illuminate the road, they illuminated a new era for American design. People who saw the car in traffic stopped and stared. It wasn't just beautiful, it was captivating. Men admired it, women loved it, and children pointed at it as it rolled by like a royal carriage. The interior of the 1957 Imperial was equally impressive. Step inside and the world outside seemed to disappear. Everything felt solid, elegant, and crafted with a level of detail that American cars hadn't shown before. The dashboard looked like something from a sleek modern lounge, with beautifully arranged gauges and controls that were easy to reach and pleasant to use. Chrysler invested a fortune into making the interior quiet, using advanced sound-deadening materials that allowed passengers to glide down the road in near silence. Cadillac boasted luxury, but the Imperial didn't need to boast. It delivered. The seats were large, plush, and almost sofa-like, but without the sloppy softness that sometimes plagued American luxury cars. Instead, the Imperial offered perfect balance, comfort without sacrificing support, elegance without unnecessary excess. Underneath all the glamour was engineering that bordered on perfection. One of the most important features of the 1957 Imperial was its new torsion bar front suspension, known as torsionaire. This system gave the car incredible ride stability, razor-sharp control, and a smoothness that Cadillac simply couldn't match. Road testers were amazed at how such a large and heavy car could handle with the finesse of a much smaller one. The Imperial felt confident, planted, and almost unshakable even at high speeds. This was no ordinary luxury car, this was a technological masterpiece. Then there was the engine. Under the massive hood rested Chrysler's legendary Hemi V8, a power plant that symbolized American engineering at its finest. With 392 cubic inches and 325 horsepower in standard form, the engine offered effortless acceleration. Press the throttle and the Imperial surged forward with a quiet authority, as if pushed by the hand of a giant. Cadillac's engines were strong, but the Hemi was stronger. Lincoln's power plants were respectable, but none matched the smoothness and consistency of Chrysler's engineering. The Imperial wasn't just fast, it was majestically powerful, the kind of power you didn't shout about. You simply experienced it. Drivers of the Imperial felt an instant difference from the moment they sat behind the wheel. The car didn't float like a Cadillac. It didn't wallow like some Lincolns. Instead, it glided, controlled and graceful, with enough firmness to feel precise but enough softness to absorb every imperfection on the highway. Long road trips were effortless. In a country designed around automobiles and paved with endless highways, the Imperial was the perfect machine, a rolling palace built for grand American adventures. Its brakes, its steering, its transmission, all of it worked together in harmony, creating a feeling of completeness that luxury car enthusiasts rarely found elsewhere. The Imperial's exclusivity also helped elevate its prestige. Chrysler intentionally kept production numbers low compared to Cadillac, meaning fewer people could own one. Driving a 1957 Imperial wasn't just about having money, it was about having taste. Owning one showed that you were not interested in following the crowd. You wanted something exceptional, something truly different, something that stood above the flashy noise of Detroit. In many ways, the Imperial became the connoisseur's luxury car, admired by those who valued engineering and design over simple status. Even the smallest details were crafted with care. The door handles felt solid, the chrome trim was perfectly aligned, and the paint glistened with a richness that made competing luxury cars look dull in comparison. Cadillac and Lincoln relied heavily on brand prestige, while Imperial relied on artistry, innovation, and engineering excellence. Many owners said the same thing. The 1957 Imperial didn't just feel luxurious, it felt expensive, substantial, and genuinely well-built. What truly humiliated Cadillac and Lincoln that year was not just the Imperial's performance or design, but the critical reception it received. Press reviews were overwhelmingly positive, describing the car as the best American luxury sedan of its time. Road and Track and Motor Trend praised its engineering and refinement. Newspapers published glowing articles. Even Cadillac executives privately admitted that the Imperial had outdone them in innovation. Lincoln engineers, reportedly impressed but frustrated, knew they couldn't match Chrysler's suspension and drivetrain changes in time for 1957. For the first time in decades, Cadillac was not the undisputed king of American luxury. Someone else had stepped onto the throne. And that someone was Imperial. But the story of the 1957 Imperial goes deeper than just outperforming its rivals. It captured the essence of the era, an age of optimism, invention, and futuristic dreams. America was entering the space age. Satellites, rockets, and nuclear technology dominated headlines. People believed the future would be filled with flying cars, robot assistants, and limitless energy. The Imperial embodied those dreams with its bold tail fins, jet-inspired styling, and powerful V8 engine. This was a car built not just for the present, but for the future Americans imagined. At the same time, the Imperial represented a turning point for Chrysler. The company had always been respected, but in 1957 it became feared by its competitors. The Imperial showed the world that Chrysler could outperform everyone else when it truly tried. It wasn't just a car, it was a warning shot. Cadillac and Lincoln were suddenly forced to rethink everything, from their design language to their engineering priorities. Many automotive historians argue that the Imperial pushed the entire American industry forward by at least 5 years. It shattered complacency and reminded Detroit that innovation, not tradition, defined greatness. The reputation of the 1957 Imperial continued to grow as more people began to experience it on the road. Owners often described a sense of pride that went beyond simple satisfaction. They felt like they were part of something bigger, a moment in American automotive history when luxury had reached its most ambitious form. When an Imperial parked next to a Cadillac or Lincoln at a hotel entrance, the reaction was almost always the same. The Imperial drew more attention, more curiosity, and more admiration. It looked as if it belonged to someone who had risen above conventional prestige, someone who wanted a car that expressed individuality rather than conformity. One of the most striking things about the Imperial was how modern it felt for its time. While other cars of the era often relied on older engineering repackaged with new styling, the Imperial felt thoroughly new from the ground up. When you closed the doors, there was a satisfying, almost bank vault-like thud that few American cars could replicate. The steering wheel felt substantial in your hands, not oversized or flimsy. Every control operated with precision. The push-button TorqueFlite automatic transmission was unlike anything Cadillac or Lincoln offered, and its smooth shifting made the Imperial glide forward with a whisper-like grace. Drivers could feel that Chrysler had taken extra steps to engineer a machine that was truly special. The Imperial's power was not just a technical achievement, it was part of its personality. On long stretches of highway, the car could sustain high speeds effortlessly, as though it were designed to cross entire states without breaking a sweat. At a time when America's interstate highway system was rapidly expanding, the Imperial became a natural ruler of those endless asphalt ribbons. Its long wheelbase and torsion bar suspension made it incredibly stable, giving drivers confidence to travel faster and farther than ever before. While Cadillac sometimes felt soft and overly cushioned at high speeds, and Lincoln often felt heavy and slightly clumsy, the Imperial remained poised and confident. People who drove both cars almost universally concluded that the Imperial simply felt superior on the open road. Beyond its mechanical excellence, the Imperial had a character that was difficult to describe but impossible to ignore. It had presence, not the forced presence of oversized chrome or exaggerated styling, but an aura of sophistication and strength. It was a car that did not need to shout to be noticed. It commanded attention through elegance and dignity. Even the smallest design elements seemed carefully crafted to create a unified, harmonious look. The tail fins, instead of being purely decorative, created a visual balance with the long hood and the freestanding headlights. The sweeping sidelines emphasized the car's length without making it seem excessive. It was as if every part of the car had been sculpted by someone who understood beauty not as ornamentation, but as proportion. Inside, the attention to detail continued in ways that still surprise restorers today. The materials were chosen not just for appearance but for durability. Many Imperials from 1957 still have interiors that, even after decades, show less wear than their Cadillac and Lincoln counterparts. Chrysler focused on quality in a way that few American manufacturers did at the time. It wasn't unusual for buyers to describe the interior as European-like, a comparison that would have been shocking in the 1950s. American luxury cars were known for abundance, not refinement. But the Imperial managed to blend both, offering a sense of richness without falling into gaudy excess. The car's quietness was another advantage that created a lasting impression. Tests conducted in 1957 showed that the Imperial was among the quietest American cars ever produced at the time. The engineers used thick insulation, carefully sealed door frames, and special mounting techniques to reduce both engine and road noise. Passengers could speak at a normal tone even at highway speeds. Some owners even reported moments when they couldn't tell whether the engine was still running during idle. This level of refinement was rare in the American luxury segment and added to the sense of sophistication that defined the Imperial experience. As the months passed, Cadillac and Lincoln dealers began to worry. Their cars still sold well, of course, brand loyalty in the 1950s was extremely strong, but many of their wealthiest clients were taking a surprisingly close look at the Imperial. Test drives revealed differences that marketing slogans couldn't hide. Cadillac's huge advertising budget tried to downplay the Imperial's impact, but automotive journalists kept praising Chrysler's luxury flagship. Lincoln, which had struggled with its radical redesign for 1958, felt the pressure even more. The Imperial had shaken the hierarchy of American luxury in a way few cars ever had. In the years that followed, the 1957 Imperial became something of a legend. Not because it sold in massive numbers, its production remained intentionally limited, but because it represented the pinnacle of Chrysler's engineering capabilities. Collectors today regard the 1957 Imperial as one of the finest American cars ever built, a near-perfect combination of design, power, innovation, and craftsmanship. Few cars of the era have aged as gracefully. Many mid-century cars look dated or exaggerated, but the Imperial retains a timeless beauty that continues to impress even people who know little about classic automobiles. Another aspect that added to the Imperial's reputation was its durability. The Hemi V8 became famous for its robust construction and long lifespan. Many Imperials from 1957 remained in service for decades, used as limousines, government vehicles, and executive transportation long after their competitors had been retired. The car's body structure was incredibly strong, thanks to Chrysler's commitment to solid engineering. In crash tests and real-world accidents, the Imperial proved to be one of the safest American cars of its time. Owners often joked that the car was built like a tank, but with the elegance of a grand ballroom. Part of what made the Imperial so special was the context of the era. America was transitioning into a new age of optimism fueled by technological progress. The space race was beginning, televisions were becoming central in households, and industries were expanding at unprecedented rates. People believed in the future, and they wanted objects that reflected that belief. The Imperial embodied the dreams of the era: modernity, sophistication, and limitless potential. Driving the car made you feel connected to that cultural momentum, as though you were participating in the nation's progress. It wasn't just a mode of transportation, it was an expression of American ambition. For Chrysler, the Imperial also represented a deeply personal achievement. The company had faced challenges during the early 1950s, and many critics doubted whether it could compete against the giants of luxury. The success of the 1957 Imperial silenced those doubts. It proved that Chrysler had the talent, vision, and engineering capability to outperform anyone in Detroit, including Cadillac. Unfortunately, financial issues and production challenges would later affect the company in future years, but the memory of the 1957 Imperial remained untouched. It stood as a reminder of what Chrysler could accomplish when everything aligned. Collectors today treat the 1957 Imperial with a level of reverence usually reserved for rare European marques. Original models that retain their freestanding headlights, their soaring tail fins, and their Hemi engines are highly sought after. Restoring one is a labor of love, as the car's construction is far more complex than most American vehicles of the era. The torsion bar suspension requires careful adjustment, the interiors demand high-quality reproduction materials, and the trim pieces, many of which were handcrafted, need special attention. But those who restore Imperials say the same thing: when completed, the car becomes a masterwork of American design, a rolling sculpture of chrome, steel, and beauty. Driving a restored Imperial today is an experience that feels almost surreal. Modern traffic is filled with compact SUVs, crossovers, and utilitarian vehicles that prioritize practicality over personality. The Imperial, by contrast, is pure presence. Its long hood stretches out like the deck of a ship, its massive grille shines like polished armor, and its tail fins slice through the air as symbols of a bygone dream. People on the streets stop and admire it in a way they rarely do with other classic cars. The Imperial commands respect, not through aggression, but through elegance and stature. It reminds people of an era when cars were expressions of artistry and aspiration. One of the interesting things about the Imperial is how many people who never owned one still remember it. Stories of relatives who drove an Imperial, or neighbors who admired one, are common. The car left an impression on everyone who saw it, not just those who bought it. Owners described how strangers approached them at gas stations or diners just to ask about the car. Children pressed their faces against the windows to see the inside. Mechanics admired its engineering. Even now, at car shows and gatherings, the Imperial stands out among dozens of restored Cadillacs and Lincolns. It has an unmistakable aura that attracts attention as effortlessly today as it did in 1957. Looking back, the Imperial's greatest triumph was not simply outperforming Cadillac and Lincoln. It was proving that American luxury could reach heights that rivaled anything in the world. The car was a testament to what could be achieved when engineers, designers, and visionaries worked without compromise. It symbolized a moment when ambition and innovation merged to create something extraordinary. Cadillac may have reclaimed its dominance in later years, and Lincoln may have carved its own path, but neither could erase the impact of the 1957 Imperial. Its superiority that year was undeniable. The legacy of the 1957 Imperial is not measured in sales figures or marketing campaigns, but in admiration. It is remembered as the American luxury car that dared to challenge the established order, and succeeded. It humbled Cadillac and Lincoln not through arrogance, but through excellence. It surpassed expectations not through flashiness, but through substance. And for those who appreciate automotive history, it stands as one of the brightest achievements ever to emerge from Detroit. Even now, decades later, the 1957 Imperial continues to inspire designers, collectors, and enthusiasts. It remains a symbol of a time when the future seemed limitless and when cars were built not only to impress, but to endure. In the end, that is the true essence of the 1957 Chrysler Imperial, a masterpiece of American luxury that transcended its era, proving that greatness is not defined by popularity, but by the ability to stand alone, bold, powerful, elegant, and unforgettable.